everyone. Try not to be on the street, a little bit inside.
Okay, well, here we are. This is the Allied Irish Bank, and I'm going to be talking to two activists from Debt and Development Coalition from Ireland, itself a major tax haven. I'm going to start by talking to Daniel Finn. Well, Daniel, there are lots of different types of banks, both here in Jersey and in other countries. What sort of bank is Allied Irish Bank?
Well, AIB is one of the two main commercial banks in Ireland, along with Bank of Ireland, and it's also diversified into international markets to a large extent over the last 10 years or so. It's one of the, along with Bank of Ireland, it's been hit badly by the financial crisis. Has just received €3.5 billion from the National Pension Fund for recapitalisation from the Irish government. And we could also say it's had a bit of a checkered relationship with the tax authorities in Ireland over the last 10 years or so. In the late 90s, they had to make a payment of £90 million as it was then, for tax irregularities in their customers' accounts. And when their chairman was called before the Irish Dáil, the Parliament, and asked to explain what had happened, he said that they'd been hoodwinked by their unscrupulous customers, and that was why there'd been irregularities in their accounts.
Thank you, Daniel. And I'm going to talk to Nessa and Chasaide, who's also from the Debt and Development Coalition. Nessa, Ireland's a tax haven. What is the Irish government's view of offshore accounts and offshore tax haven?
Well, as my colleague has alluded to, there's been a checkered history in AIB with the Irish authorities, and part of a lot of the series of scandals that have hit AIB over the last decade have highlighted a lack of regulation and a lack of accountability and oversight by the Irish government with regard to Irish banks. However, in relation to offshore banks, the Irish government is a government that we can also look to that has in fact taken action to address tax avoidance practices with regard to Irish offshore banks. In 2001, the Irish government set up the OAG, the Offshore Assets Group, which was essentially established to investigate tax avoidance practices by individuals who were moving accounts offshore through Irish banks in order to avoid paying tax. So the Irish Revenue Commissioners essentially got a court order to investigate the account of an Irish clearing bank, which they knew was moving money offshore through a particular account. So this put them in a really strong position to issue investigation notices to 10 financial institutions in Ireland, including AIB. So as a result of this process, the Irish government set up a very clear and systematic communication mechanism with the financial institutions, who then communicated with their customers that they had an opportunity to make a qualifying disclosure about their tax affairs. The Irish government also initiated a booklet and clear guidelines about how customers could go about declaring any tax liabilities that may be at stake. So as a result of this process and giving clear deadlines where customers could declare their tax liabilities, the Irish government has actually collected €910 million as a result of this process, and this has been through tax payments and from about 15,000 individuals who have accounts with banks in Ireland who also have offshore subsidiaries.
So that's nearly €1 billion that's available now for spending on social projects and so on in Ireland.
Yes.
What are the lessons, the more general lessons that you draw from that for tax justice, not just in Ireland but worldwide?
Yeah. Well, I think there's huge lessons to draw from this because, as you say, a huge amount of resources were gained from this process. Not over €900 million, which coincidentally is almost exactly the amount of money that Ireland paid in overseas development aid last year. So it would cover that sort of really important and badly needed resources, cover those kind of payments. But also I think it has much wider and systemic lessons, because it's a demonstration that when there is political will, action can be taken by using resources strategically, having a clear, well-targeted approach and campaign, and that it really pays off, that you can get the resources back. So I think this is a lesson for governments more widely, that they can take action in this way. The contradiction, however, is that the Irish government has not made the link that impoverished countries in the majority world are losing billions every year because of tax avoidance and tax evasion practices. So we want to see them making that connection, that they have undertaken this progressive and useful action, but we need to ensure that countries of the global south are also enabled to take those kind of actions, and that's what we're calling on the Irish government to support.
And that means also taking action in Ireland on its own onshore financial tax havens taxes.
Absolutely. I mean, this is the difficulty, that Ireland is not making those connections, and it can only be assumed because there is a sense of discomfort among Ireland and many other countries that have features of tax havens to actually put this issue on the table and discuss it. So that's why we support the calls of the European Network on Debt and Development and the Tax Justice Network for a comprehensive multilateral solution to tackling tax havens.
Thank you, Nessa. Does anyone have any questions for Nessa?
Does Ireland has a tax evasion since there is more regulation, or is Ireland losing, I don't know, on financial market or industrial one? Or?
Yes, well, Ireland is losing a lot of money through tax exiles or tax fugitives, as we tend to call them. There's about 5,000 tax fugitives recorded. The latest statistic of individuals who are moving their finances offshore in order to avoid paying tax. But the bigger question and the bigger sacred cow in the Irish economy is to talk about Ireland's corporate taxation policy, the role of our International Financial Services Centre in all of this. So that's one of the things that we believe has to be taken up, to actually look at the role of, to start examining, well, how could Ireland have a more sustainable economy that works for justice for the most vulnerable people in Ireland and the most vulnerable people in other parts of the world.
Next stop, Société Générale, just across the street. Société Générale.